happy Vlogmas day 8. I hope you guys are doing well. Today's going to be a very busy day for me because if you've been following along with me for the last couple days, you know that I've been working on the Forget Me Not pattern Sabrina skirt. I'm hoping to finish it today and do my photo shoot today. Everything is today. I have not decided on a location yet, and I'm having trouble lately finding locations to shoot. I also have not decided yet how I'm going to style it. So I'm kind of all over the place today, but the aim is to get it done and have a photo shoot. We'll see how it goes. Stay tuned. Continuing from where we left off, I was about to sew my side seams, but I actually decided I'm going to sew the back up first, since the side seams are where I'm going to make my adjustments. So I want to do that last, so I can either pin it on my body or baste it and then do the adjustments. So I wanted to point out a few things with the back piece. You're supposed to use either a 10 or 12-inch zipper. My zipper is only 8 inches. There is a zipper notch here, so since my zipper is 2 inches shorter than the requirement, I actually moved my zipper notch up by 2 inches. That way the zipper notch is within the length of the zipper tape. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark 3/4 inch seam allowance from the zipper notch down to this dot, and from the top here I'm going to mark 3/8 inch seam allowance down to the zipper stop. This is going to be the guide for my zipper, and the 3/4 inch is the seam allowance we'll be using to sew the two back pieces right sides together from the zipper notch down to this point. We're then going to pivot and sew to this point. So right between here we're changing the seam allowance from 3/4 inch to 3/8 inch. I'm going to use my quilting ruler to draw the lines. Like I said already, these are just guidelines. So now we're going to place our pieces right sides together, and we're going to pin from the zipper notch down to after the second small dot. So now we're going to go to the machine and we're going to stitch 3/4 inch seam allowance from the notch down to this small dot. We're going to pivot and stitch down to this second small dot. Here is mine all stitched, and now we're going to take it to the pressing table. So the next step is to turn it over to the right side, and right now my right is on top but my left should be on top. So I'm just going to flip the seam allowances over to the left instead, and we're going to press this into place. And just like that, we have a left kick pleat in the making. Also, you are supposed to finish your edges before you do this step, but this fabric is never going to fray, so I decided I would just leave it for this part. Okay, so the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to run a basting stitch along my 3/8 guides. That way when I flip the skirt over, it's going to have that 3/8 inch guide for me to line up my zipper tape against, so that I can have the exact 3/4 inch seam allowance. Alrighty, so I have my basting stitches at 3/8 of an inch, and when I lay down my zipper, I'm gonna make sure that my zipper tape lines up with that basting stitch. That way when I sew at the zipper teeth, it's going to be exactly 3/4 of an inch seam allowance. Another thing I've done before applying my zipper, I don't know if you can see, there's a little mark here. That mark is exactly 1/8 of an inch above where the zipper notch stitching started, and this is where the instructions tell you to stop sewing your zipper. So I put a mark there so I will know exactly where to stop. Alrighty, I have my zipper pinned into place, and I have the last pin exactly where that mark is, so I know that I'm going to stop there. So I'm going to take this over to the machine now, stitch this, and then we'll get to the other side. So my first side of the zipper is stitched on. Now we're going to flip it so that we can sew the other side of the zipper. But what I'm going to do first, to make sure that the zipper is going to line up, I'm going to close my zipper, and right where the zipper notch is, I'm going to put a mark on the zipper on both sides so that I can then line up with the mark with the other zipper notch on this side, and that will make sure that I have the zipper sewn on perfectly straight. So here are my marks. So I'm going to make sure when I'm pinning that this blue mark lines up with this notch here. We're going to pin along the 3/8 inch basting seam again, and we're going to stitch that side of the zipper down. Alright, so my zipper is pinned, and again I'm going to sew from the 1/8 inch above the zipper notch all the way up to the top, as close to the zipper teeth as possible. Okay, so I have both sides of my zipper applied. I'm going to turn it to the right side, zip it up, make sure everything is okay. Trying to get the zipper head. There we go. Alright, and it's zipped up, and here it is from the wrong side. So the back of my skirt is now complete. Now I'm going to place the front on this right sides together and base the side seams at 3/4 of an inch to see if I was right on the sizing or if I have to do any alterations. The moment of truth, and I'm really happy with the fit. The waist fits perfectly, so does the hip. Going down a size to account for the stretch in both fabrics was the best idea. The fit is perfect. I don't have to make any alterations at all. The only alteration I made, I forgot to mention, is that I did lengthen the skirt 2 inches because it's supposed to fit above the knee, but I prefer my pencil skirts to hit me right on the knee, and this has the hem still 1.5 inches, so it's gonna hit me right on top of my knee, which is where I like my pencil skirts to fit. I am really happy that I chose the 36 instead of the 38. Love it. I ended up interfacing my facing pieces just because the waist fits so well. I never wanted to stretch out. So of course I'm going to turn these right sides together and stitch like you normally would any facing. I'm going to finish my edges and I'm going to get ready to apply the facing to the waistline. Alright, so this is what my facing looks like. It's all one piece now with finished edges. I am not going to apply the facing on camera just because I know that Forget Me Not Patterns has private videos for the way that they apply their facing. They do a stepped back facing, and you have access to that when you purchase the pattern. So I'm going to apply mine off camera and then I'll show you what it looks like. So my facing is in, and I forgot to change my bobbin thread. So now I have beige thread on the black facing, and I am not ripping it out. It has to stay like this. So what I'm going to do to ensure that the facing stays down and that gold thread doesn't come showing, I'm going to tack in the dark lines, just a few little tacks in all of the dark lines, making sure that it catches the facing underneath, and that way the facing definitely cannot roll out. Alright, so now that my facing is in, the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to clip right here on the top layer only. So we're going to clip from the corner close to the stitching but not through, and then we're going to press this like this. That way this seam is going to lay open and flat, and then the next step is to follow this line of stitching, and we're going to stitch through all layers. And on the right side you will see a line of stitching, but it's going to keep the slit flat. You should be able to see the slit stitching here, so that way the left is always going to stay on top and it's never going to open out further than you would like. The next step is going to be hemming, and then we're all done. Okay, so when it comes to hemming, you're going to turn back the left slit onto itself, right sides together. You'll have your fold where you pressed earlier, so it will be easy to do this. Now there is supposed to be a hem notch here, but remember I lengthened my skirt 2 inches, so I do not have a hem notch here. But I do know that the hem needs to be 1.5 inches. So I'm going to measure up from the bottom 1.5 inches, and then we're going to stitch across. Then when we flip it back, it's automatically going to take up the hem with it. So I have my stitching done, and generally what you would do is you would trim this area before you flip it. However, I'm going to leave it like this first and then try the skirt just to make sure that it's hitting exactly where I want it to, and then I can flip it back out and trim it. So this is what it looks like when you turn it through to the other side. So obviously you'll keep folding this 1.5 inches all around and pressing it. For the underlap, the treatment is a little bit different. If you remember, when we had pivoted and came down, we stopped the stitching at the small dot, and this leaves 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, which means you should be able to turn this back 3/8 of an inch seam allowance so that it's a finished edge underneath when the slit opens. So what we're going to do instead is you're going to turn this up 1.5 inches, and then you're going to sew along here 3/8 of an inch. Then when you flip that out, it will already have this 3/8 of an inch pressed, and then we'll stitch it all the way down. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. I'm not the best at this type of stuff. Alright, so I've stitched my 3/8 of an inch. Now we're going to flip it out. Do the same thing, press 1.5 inches all around till it meets this side. You're also going to make sure you flip your 3/8 of an inch here, and you're going to stitch all the way down. So I've stitched it. I didn't bother to take it all the way down to the end, just personal preference. So there's your 3/8 inch, and then this one will lay on top of this one. Of course, it isn't hemmed, so it's not gonna lay very flat right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and press 1.5 inches all the way around, and then I'm going to hem. This is a deeper hem than I'm accustomed to, so I'm not sure if I'm going to like it yet, but we'll see how it goes.